Tuesday to all of you out here today. Like I said, I don't care if I'm speaking here by myself and nobody is right now has logged in or have hit the link to come in if you didn't get your notification. But as you enter in, please hit the like button. If you're new to this channel, you can subscribe, hit the bell so you get all notifications when I come on. Um, I'm still on the roll, y'all. Like I said, I'm not going to try to fall asleep on what took place on August the 5th of 2023. I am still going to be resilient. I'm still going to bring sound the alarm and to keep my people woke before they get want to move on and get caught off guards with what's going to happen next. Okay, we have to stay prayed up, watch as pray, watch as well as pray, wherever that's however which way in the order that is said. We have to watch as well as pray. Some other interesting things have taken place that I've been looking into, but right now, like what happened with the little boy that was in North Carolina, in Greensboro, North Carolina, he was at a pool with his sister and in the community pool in the neighborhood and in development in the neighborhood. And while he was at the pool, a white woman attacked him, threw soda in his face, juice, whatever, and also hit him with a bottle of whatever and told him not to come back to the pool. And the little boy was told, he told his story. So a lot of you could do your research. You could go around. I might just come back and share that with you maybe later on. But right now, I just wanted to just come with this another one of something about Malcolm X, because right now we are in the season of Malcolm X. We are no longer going to be doing Martin, peaceful protesters, trying to do everything the right way, getting innocently locked up, being charged for a crime for defending ourselves or whatever. I know I went on some platforms and I had said to some people that, look, I don't think that chairman Reggie Ray should have been fined or even arrested. I mean, yes, they should have just like, to restrain him or whatever. Yes, to get the crowd and to restrain what was going on at the time. But me personally don't feel that he should have been in the face of adversity. Okay, hold on, y'all. I had to do that because it went out on me. Before I start this video, I just speak on what I needed to speak on here before I go into this video. But what I'm saying and everything is I don't feel that Reggie Ray was it was by the law it was handled properly. These white mob of angry men attacked the co-captain while he was at work. This is it don't take a this should not even have to go on in the courthouse or whatever. It was 40 minutes before this man was out there trying to get them to move their boat, which was parked in a place where it was not supposed to be, for the Harriet 2 to deck. Okay, for the Harriet 2 to dock and bring in their passengers. These people felt privileged enough to park their boat in a place where they were not allowed to park their boats. There's videos out there. There's all kind of stuff out there, and everything else to show proof of that. And there were people that witnessed it. So there is no reason why these black men and women who had to protect themselves and also to help seeing this man being beaten, who had to come to his rescue or whatever with violence or whatever, should be held accountable. I'm sorry. Yo, he picked up a chair and hit him. I would have probably picked up more than a chair, bat, whatever I could put my hands on if I see an angry bunch of white mob men and women. I'm sorry. From the things that black people have gone through history, we are traumatized and we're tired. So, if anybody should, hey, Renee, how are you? Yeah, if anybody should be paying for any of the punitive damages and court fees and hospital bills or whatever has to be, the cost of what has happened should be on the ones who started it. And that was those white, you know, offensive people. It was dumb. And then the thing I want to say about these black civil rights um attorneys, the first thing you did was run to the social media and put up um a GoFundMe. I just think that is just like, to me, the money, you turning the movement and moving the people minds in a different direction. Is everything always money being the biggest motivation? Sometimes we just got to do what's humanly right for our brothers and sisters, and to come in defense of our brothers and sisters. God bless you to have that degree, to go to school and educate you about when your people get in trouble, how you can come and be in their defense. I don't think money should have been your biggest motivation, and that's what you did. And you already making us pay for something that we shouldn't be paying for. If anything, they should be paying for it. You already coming for our pocketbooks and everything else. Back in the days during the civil rights movement, and the people that helped support Dr. Martin Luther King and all the other civil rights fighters, the freedom fighters and everything else, they came through private donations. They donations were not made funded by the public like that. They was not funded like that by the public. There was celebrities that gave to the cause, and they done it privately. Some through concerts and gave. And what's her name already said she was going to do. Stephanie Mills was already doing a concert for the people to raise money to donate to them. So why was y'all going to a GoFundMe on social media and on the net? That, I think that was a little bit reaching too much. That was too much. Okay, these white people are being funded by other white organizations, other white corporations, and everything else for what they did. Some things we don't need to be putting out in the public so everybody to see how we are moving. And sometimes we do that to sell our people out and to cause our people do more damage than good for our people. So you got to be very careful with that. And that's what I've been trying to say. Why I've said these black civil rights attorneys, this is the kind of moves they make. And these people are being funded and paid, like these white thugs that came in and attacked the co-captain. You don't see no GoFundMe out there for them. They people got they back, but they people are doing it privately. Private corporation, white corporations and everything that are supporting their funding. And if anything, I'm saying like this. Some things are just, everything is not for everywhere for us to do it. Okay. Stephanie Mills already said she was going to throw a concert in the benefit of the people, for her people. Okay. And the first thing y'all went to do is go online and get a GoFundMe up. Hey Frankie, how you doing? I'm glad you here, sis. And this is what I wanted to say. Why we gotta always let the left hand know what the right hand is doing? And I just thought that was just like, to me, it was just it's a setup for a setback for us. I'm sorry. But anyway, let me get into this. Oh God, I hope it comes on now, because
born into a society.
wait. I gotta go back, y'all. Let me go back, because I've been running my mouth. I just wanted to make my introduction of why I'm doing this. I was running my mouth, but this is right now Martin speaking to us. He's the ancestors are speaking to us, and Martin. We already went through the Martin part. We went through the peaceful part of the movement, and now it's time to hear what Malcolm has to say. We tried it that way. We tried to do it a peaceful protest before, and people don't know. And the reason why Martin was assassinated and Malcolm was assassinated, and after Malcolm's assassination, people knew that Martin was right now ready to move into Islam. He was ready to go with their policies, to do it their way. After the death of Malcolm, Martin was going to move in with Islam. He was going to join in his movement into Islam. That's why they had to quiet him. That's why they had to kill him. But that's going to be on another topic. But right now, let's listen to this.
Secured his place as the voice of nonviolent mass protest in the 1960s. Yet the success of the movement was only possible due to the foundation laid by fiery leaders before him. Among them stands Malcolm X, a man who emerged from the depths of adversity to become one of the most resonant and influential voices of the civil rights movement. His journey, marked by personal transformation and an unyielding commitment to justice, is a testament to the power of resilience and the pursuit of truth. Malcolm X was a different kind of leader, a true trailblazer whose spirit was forged in the face of adversity. Born into a society that sought to confine him, he rose above the limitations imposed upon him, becoming a symbol of resilience and determination. Through his unwavering commitment to civil rights, he paved the way for an entire generation to find their voice, their purpose, and their power. In this video, we will delve into the life and times of Malcolm X, peeling back the layers to reveal a man whose indomitable spirit and unwavering commitment to justice have left an indelible mark on history. From his humble beginnings to his transformative journey of self-discovery, we will witness the evolution of a mind that dared to question and challenge the prevailing.
I'm gonna stop right here. I am coming from the video that I got from Black Journals. You could go to Black Journals. This is where I'm coming from. Shout out to Black Journals for their research and to share this content with the public and Black history and some of our history and everything else, especially about our greats that ever lived, like Malcolm X. Like I said, I tell everybody I was in the time of the making of. I was born a generational X baby. I was born in the late '60s, and of course, these things came during that time I was being born. These things were in my spirit. That's probably why I'm speaking on it, because our children are supposed to be leading right now. These are our children. If I had a child, my child should be a part of this movement right now. And this is about, you know, us continuing the struggle, to continue the fight. When right now we're not going to have no peaceful protests. You know, we are going to now listen to what Malcolm had done for us and what he took the stand to do for us, and how he wanted to speak truth and open us to the things that was happening at that time to us, and still happening. It ain't over, y'all. You got to stay woke.
Narratives of his era. Before we get right into the video, please smash the like button and subscribe to the channel to keep informed of our eye-opening Black narrative. In the heartland of Omaha, Nebraska, on the 19th of May, 1925, a child was born into a world fraught with turmoil and inequality. His name was Malcolm Little, and his early
He was
life
born
was a
Malcolm
tempest of
Little.
hardship and struggle. His parents, Earl and Louise Little, were brave fighters against racial injustice, and their home was filled with a powerful desire for equality. Little did they know that their son Malcolm.
And the thing you don't know is that Malcolm also, you know, when he's born in Nebraska, May 19th, 1925. Okay. During his time, his father was also a civil rights leader, but in the Baptist white church, in the Baptist black church, and his father was murdered. If you know the story about what happened to Malcolm's father, his mother was from the West Indies. I think his mother was from Grenada. She was a West Indian, light-skinned Grenadian woman. Okay. The thing is that Malcolm's father was a black minister. He was a minister. He was a Baptist preacher. And he stood up to the white man. This happened in the beginning of Malcolm's life. His father took a stand against them, and they took him and they tied him down on the railroad, and they killed his father and bashed him upside the head, and they lynched his father. Okay, so his thing was very deep and personal. Very deep and personal. So let's go into the story of his life.
Would be molded by their unyielding spirit and grow to be a towering figure in the annals of history. His parents faced significant threats to their safety due to their activism against racial injustice. Throughout their lives, they moved several times to escape the reach of white supremacist groups that targeted them. The Ku Klux Klan, or KKK, a notorious white supremacist organization known for its violence and intimidation tactics, was active during that period, targeting African Americans who challenged the racial status quo. In the early 1920s, the Littles moved to Milwaukee to escape the oppressive environment in Omaha. However, racial tensions persisted in their new location. Seeking a safer haven, the family moved to Lansing in the mid-1920s. Here they faced continued discrimination and hostility from other supremacist groups like the Black Legion, which operated mainly in the Midwest during the 1920s and 1930s. They were responsible for numerous acts of violence, including bombings, arson, and lynchings, all aimed at intimidating and suppressing African Americans and other minority groups. Malcolm X would lose 4 of his father's brothers due to mysterious circumstances during this period. Racism would strike Malcolm's young life with a cruel force, leaving deep scars that would shape his path forever. Tragically, his father was taken away from him through a senseless and brutal murder, which shattered his world completely. When Malcolm Little was 6 years old, his father's body was found lying across the town's trolley tracks. The death was ruled accidental, but his mother Louise believed Earl had been murdered by the Black Legion. Louise would be denied a life insurance benefit as the insurer claimed Earl Little had committed suicide to make ends meet. A few years later, his mother suffered a mental breakdown and was institutionalized. Her children, including Malcolm, would be separated.
You
and
see the
sent to foster
trauma,
homes.
you see the trauma in America that we're dealing with throughout generation to generation of black people being lynched, murdered, and the thing that happened to Malcolm's mother. Do you think this man gonna want these people to be his friends after experiencing such trauma? And his mother going into a mental institution, and Michael and his brothers and sisters being put in some kind of foster care system or some kind of orphanage, and then Malcolm had to survive on the street. Let's go into his story.
He attended West Junior High School in Lansing and then Mason High School in
Oops.
Mason, Michigan,
Sorry, y'all.
but left high school in 1941 before graduating. He excelled in junior high school, but dropped out of high school after a white teacher told him that practicing law, his aspiration at the time, was no realistic goal for a Negro. These words made
And they still
Malcolm
tell
feel
us
that
that.
the white world offered no place for a career-oriented black man, regardless of talent. As a teenager, he moved to Harlem, New York, where he became involved in criminal activities. In 1946, at the age of 21, he was arrested for burglary and sentenced to 10 years in prison. Little did he know that this period of confinement would become a turning point in his life. During his time behind bars, Malcolm immersed himself in reading and education. He devoured books on various subjects, expanding his knowledge and opening his mind to new ideas. It was
Amen.
here that he met fellow convict John Bembry, a self-educated man he would later describe as the first man I had ever seen command total respect with words. Under Bembry's influence, he developed a voracious appetite for reading. It was during this transformative period that he discovered the teachings of the Nation of Islam, an organization advocating for black separatism and self-determination. At that time, Malcolm showed scant interest in transforming his life, still caught up in a cycle of self-destructive behaviors. However, his brother Reginald would prove to be a turning point. In his letter, Reginald urged him to make two simple yet profound changes: quit smoking and stop consuming pork. I'll show you that. These seemingly small adjustments carried significant symbolic weight within the context of the Nation of Islam's teachings. After a visit in which Reginald described the group's teachings, including the belief that white people were destined for divine punishment because of their long-standing oppression of blacks, Malcolm concluded that every relationship he had had with whites had been tainted by dishonesty, injustice, greed, and hatred. Malcolm, whose
Amen.
hostility to
And to this day, it's in their DNA. You got to understand when God created us as the unique people that we are for whatever masterpiece of his work, white people from the time they were created was always jealous and hateful of black people. And the thing is just in their nature. Even every animal in the kingdom, like the felines, as far as what you want to call the cats, you want to say the lions, the tigers, and the leopards, and the lynx, and all of them other creatures, okay, of the animal kingdom, okay, they all are in the feline family as we are in the human family, but they all are different. And it's just they all have they different. But if you see a feline and a tiger together, they're different. And they going to eat differently, they're going to hunt differently, they got a different diet, they got a different way of how they attack their, when they out on their prey, they have a different way of praying and attacking, and the way they breeding they cubs or whatever like that, they all different. So it's just in the animal's nature. And the same I say about the black man and the white man. We have a different nature. And it's just, and when the blood is mixed up like that with all of this other stuff, you see these kids that are a little different than we are. if we're a pedigree compared to a multiracial child. It's going to be a totally, it's not going to mix. Well, anyway, and Malcolm knew how they thought and how they felt, whatever, because he even admitted how he had some of their blood in him. This was what's so interesting about Malcolm X. But his father was a chocolate black man. His mother was the one who had the mixture of the blood. Okay, when he was out there doing criminal things and killing and poisoning his people with drugs and the life he was living, that was the DNA he came from his white side of him. And loving white women. Oh, he talks about it. That was the DNA. That was the DNA. And he had to go to prison to find the truth. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. But in the end, he found out the truth. But let's go on.
Christianity had earned him the prison nickname Satan. He became receptive to the message of the Nation of Islam. In late 1948, he wrote to Elijah Muhammad, the leader of the Nation of Islam. Muhammad advised him to renounce his past, humbly bow in prayer to God, and promise never to engage in destructive behavior again. Though he later recalled the inner struggle he had before bending his knees to pray, he soon became a member of the Nation of Islam, maintaining a regular correspondence with Muhammad. Malcolm's embrace of black separatism would shape the debate over how to achieve freedom and equality in a nation that had long denied a portion of the American citizenry and the full protection of their rights. It also laid the groundwork for the Black Power movement of the late 60s. In 1950, the FBI opened a file on him after he wrote a letter from prison to President Truman, expressing opposition to the Korean War and declaring himself a communist. That year, he also began signing his name, Malcolm X. In his autobiography, Malcolm explained that the X symbolized the true African family name that he could never know. For me, my X replaced the white slave master name of Little, which some blue-eyed devil named Little had imposed upon my paternal forebears. After his parole in August 1952, he visited Elijah Muhammad in Chicago. From there, he would become a part of several of the nation's temples. He would rapidly expand the membership of the Nation of Islam. His oratory skills make him a great speaker, commanding respect in any room that he lends his voice. However, this was not only what set him apart in those times. His physical presence, standing at 6 feet 3 inches, and
he's my father's height,
gave the opulence of power that drove people to him. In 1953, the FBI began surveillance of him, turning its attention from his possible communist associations to his rapid ascent in the Nation of Islam. The American public first became aware of Malcolm X in 1957 after Hinton Johnson, a Nation of Islam member, was beaten by 2 New York City police officers. On April 26th of that year, Johnson and 2 other Nation of Islam members saw the officers beating an African-American man with nightsticks. When they attempted to intervene, one of the officers turned on Johnson, beating him so severely that he suffered brain contusions and subdural hemorrhaging. Johnson and the other African-American men would be arrested. Alerted by a witness, Malcolm and a small group of Muslims...
Now we get into the juicy part. Didn't we just see witness this past August the 5th of 2023, a black man being beaten by a normal white man, and other black people came to their rescue, and they were being attacked as well, but not by the officers this time, with their white sisters and their white brethrens, was trying to get in the fight and attack this one black man, and his people came and was not going to stand for it. But let's go on.
And demanded to see Johnson. Police initially denied
that
any Muslims were being held, but when the crowd grew to about 500, they allowed him to speak with Johnson.
Look at Muhammad Ali right there as a young boy.
He insisted on arranging for an ambulance to take Johnson to Harlem Hospital. Inside the station, he and an attorney would arrange for 2 of the Muslims to be released. However, Johnson would remain until his arraignment. Considering the situation to be at an impasse, Malcolm stepped outside the station house and gave a hand signal to the crowd. Nation members would begin to leave, after which the rest of the crowd also dispersed.
Look at the crowd, y'all. Look at us. Look at us.
Public acceptance at the
Look
time.
at us.
On seeing this, one police officer told the New York Amsterdam News, "No one man should have that much power." Within a month,
they got
the New
mad,
York City Police Department arranged to keep Malcolm X under surveillance. They would go as far as checking with authorities in other cities in which he had lived, and prisons in which he had served time. In October, He sent an angry telegram to the police commissioner after a grand jury refused to indict the police officers that beat Johnson. In response to this, the police department assigned undercover officers to infiltrate the Nation of Islam. In the late 1961, there were intense clashes between the Nation of Islam members and the police in South Central Los Angeles. Many Muslims were arrested, but later they were acquitted. However, these events left tensions running high. In the early hours of April 27, 1962, two LAPD officers, without any provocation, attacked and beat several Muslims outside a nation's temple. This unjust act angered the Muslims, and a large crowd emerged from the mosque. The officers tried to intimidate them, but things quickly spiraled out of control. During the chaos, one officer was disarmed, and his partner was shot in the elbow by a third officer. The situation escalated when over 70 backup officers arrived at the scene. They raided the mosque and started randomly beating members of the Nation of Islam. The police even resorted to shooting, injuring 7 Muslims. Tragically, a man named Ronald Stokes, a Korean War veteran, was shot from behind while raising his hands in surrender, and he lost his life. Another man named William X. Rogers was paralyzed for life after being shot in the back. After this horrifying incident, some Muslims were accused, but the police faced no charges. The coroner even declared the killing of Ronald Stokes as justified, which added to the outrage. Malcolm X, deeply affected by the desecration of the mosque and the violence, felt a strong need for action. He turned to his own troubled past to rally the more hardened members of the Nation of Islam, urging them to seek violent revenge against the police. Malcolm X approached Elijah Muhammad, seeking his approval for this course of action, but to his astonishment, it was denied. This refusal shattered him. Additionally, when he expressed his desire for the Nation of Islam to collaborate with civil rights organizations, local black politicians, and religious groups, Elijah Muhammad blocked him again. This marked a turning point in their deteriorating relationship. Their relationship deteriorated even further when rumors began circulating that Muhammad was conducting extramarital affairs with young nation secretaries. After first discounting the rumors, Malcolm X came to believe them after he spoke with Muhammad's son Wallace, and with the girls making the accusations. Between 1964 and 1965, he appeared in several national TV interviews. During these interviews, he provided evidence of his investigation, confirming multiple cases of child defilement, which were corroborated by Elijah Muhammad himself. He discovered that 7 out of 8 girls involved had become pregnant as a result. He also revealed a chilling assassination attempt against him when an explosive device was found in his car. Alongside this, he received death threats in response to his exposure of Elijah Muhammad. The strained relationship would be completely broken years later. On December 1st, 1963, when asked about the assassination of John F. Kennedy, Malcolm X made a controversial statement. He said it was a case of chickens coming home to roost, and he added that this didn't make him sad, but rather glad. These remarks caused a lot of public outrage. The Nation of Islam, which had sent condolences to the Kennedy family and instructed its ministers not to comment on the assassination, publicly criticized Malcolm X. Although he remained a minister, he was forbidden from speaking publicly for 90 days. Malcolm X had become a media favorite by this time, and some members of the nation saw him as a threat to Elijah Muhammad's leadership. Publishers were interested in his autobiography, and in a book written by Louis Lomax about the nation. Malcolm X was featured on the cover, and his speeches were prominently included, while Muhammad's presence was limited. This made Muhammad envious and upset. On March 8, 1964, he announced his split from the Nation of Islam.
This part
Although
right
he still
here
considered himself a Muslim, he felt
is
that the
when
nation had
this part right here would happen between Malcolm and Elijah Muhammad. In the Bible, it teaches us that when David was becoming the new anointed king, how Saul became angry and wanted to come for David's life. Because the people started listening more to David, leaning towards David, than they were listening to Saul. Okay? And Saul had a son named Jonathan, who became David's friend. Very good friend. So everything his father was out to do to David, he was there to give David the warning. Just like Malcolm became friends with Elijah Muhammad's son, because even the son was on sides with Malcolm, and that angered Elijah Muhammad. This is what I'm getting it from the Bible. I'm speaking from biblical tense. When Malcolm was trying to move on his own, that's when, of course, the devil creeped in. Okay, plotting seeds into Elijah was growing old. He was losing power and everything else like that. And then this young minister was growing, and he was bringing a lot of attention and getting the movement powerful and everything else. Like, we not standing for this mess no more. Okay, what are you doing? We gotta make some moves. We losing men, getting in prison, getting beat up by and clubbed and murdered and everything else. So it's time now. We ain't gonna stand for this anymore. So everybody that want to question how did the Nation of Islam break up, it never broke up. It's just that the devil just got in control and people fell asleep and instigated some things and put plot some things, and these are things that are gonna come. So knew that his time was coming near and that they were going to use his own people to kill him. Let's go.
Reached its limit due to its rigid teachings. He revealed his plans to establish a black nationalist organization to raise the political awareness of African Americans. He also expressed a desire to collaborate with other civil rights leaders, something he had prevented from doing under Elijah Muhammad's leadership.
Stokey
After leaving the Nation of Islam, Malcolm X founded two new groups. One was called Muslim Mosque Incorporated, MMI, which focused on religion, and the other was the Organization of Afro-American Unity, a secular organization advocating for Pan-Africanism. A few days later, he would have a brief meeting with Martin Luther King Jr. It was their first and only encounter, which lasted only long enough for photographs to be taken. The meeting took place in Washington, D.C., while both men attended a Senate debate on the Civil Rights Bill at the U.S. Capitol. In April, he delivered a speech titled, "The Ballot or the Bullet." In it, he encouraged African Americans to use their voting rights wisely, but warned that if the government continued to deny them full equality, they might have to consider taking up arms. In April 1964, with the financial support of his half-sister Ella Little Collins, Malcolm X embarked on a journey to Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, to participate in the Hajj, the obligatory pilgrimage to Mecca for Muslims. However, due to his American citizenship and inability to speak Arabic, his status as a Muslim was questioned upon his arrival in Jeddah, causing a delay. Fortunately, he had a book called The Eternal Message of Muhammad by Abdul Rahman Hassan Azam, which he received along with his visa approval. He reached out to the author, and through the help of Azam's son, he was released and provided with a personal hotel suite. The following day, he discovered that he had been designated as a state guest by Prince Faisal. A few days later, after completing the Hajj rituals, he had the opportunity to meet with the prince. Malcolm X later reflected that witnessing Muslims of various races interacting as equals during the Hajj had a profound impact on him. It made him see Islam as a potential solution to racial problems, as he observed people from different backgrounds coming together in unity. During a visit to Africa, he particularly despised Moise Tshombe of the Congo, whom he viewed as an Uncle Tom figure. During a speech in New York in 1964, he referred to Tshombe as the worst African ever born, and accused him of committing the international crime of murdering Patrice Lumumba. He strongly criticized Tshombe's decision to employ white mercenaries to suppress the Simba rebellion, alleging that they committed war crimes against the Congolese people.
Always got one.
Upon returning to the United States, Malcolm X condemned the United States for supporting Tshombe and what he called his hired killers, the white mercenaries. He expressed his anger about Operation Dragon Rouge, in which the U.S. Air Force dropped Belgian paratroopers into Stanleyville, now known as Kisangani, to rescue white Belgian hostages from the Simbas. He argued that there was a double standard when it came to valuing white and black lives. He claimed that the international community deemed it an emergency to protect white lives, but did nothing to stop the abuses inflicted on the Congolese by Tshombe's mercenaries. On December 3, 1964, Malcolm X participated in a debate at the Oxford Union Society. During his address, he rejected the label of Black Muslim, and instead emphasized being a Muslim who happened to be black, reflecting his conversion to Sunni Islam. He purposely minimized references to his religion in his speech to challenge his image as an angry black Muslim extremist, an image he had long detested. At Oxford, he criticized the biased portrayal of the Congo crisis by the Anglo-American press. He pointed out that the Simbas were depicted as primitive and cannibalistic savages, engaged in every imaginable depravity, while Chombe and the white mercenaries were portrayed favorably with little mention of their own atrocities. In his speeches advocating for equality and an end to racial discrimination against black people, Malcolm X strongly argued that if the U.S. government couldn't or wouldn't protect black people, they should take matters into their own hands. He believed in self-defense and asserted that he and other members of OBAU were determined to protect themselves and fight for freedom, justice, and equality by any means necessary.
Amen.
During his speeches at the Militant Labor Forum, hosted by the Socialist Workers' Party, Malcolm X criticized capitalism. When asked about his preferred political and economic system, he admitted he didn't have a specific answer. However, he noted that it was not a coincidence that newly independent countries in the Third World were turning towards socialism. When a reporter inquired about his thoughts on socialism, he asked if it was beneficial for black people. Upon hearing that it seemed to be, he responded, "Then I'm for it." While he no longer advocated for the separation of black and white people, Malcolm X continued to support black nationalism, which meant advocating for self-determination for the African American community. However, in the final months of his life, he started to reevaluate his stance on black nationalism after meeting with North African revolutionaries who, despite their appearance as white, fought against racism. During a conversation with Gordon Parks just 2 days before his assassination, Malcolm X revealed his evolving perspective, saying, "Listening to leaders like Nasser, Ben Bella, and Nkrumah awakened me to the dangers of racism. I realized racism isn't just a black and white problem. It has caused bloodshed in nearly every nation on earth at one time or another." Throughout 1964, as his conflict with the Nation of Islam escalated, he faced repeated threats to his life. In February, a leader from Temple No. 7 ordered a bomb attack on Malcolm X's car. In March, Elijah Muhammad, the leader of the Nation of Islam, told Louis X, later known as Louis Farrakhan, that hypocrites like Malcolm should have their heads cut off. The April 10th edition of Muhammad Speaks, the nation's newspaper, even featured a cartoon depicting Malcolm X's severed head bouncing. On June 8th, the FBI intercepted a phone call in which Betty Shabazz, Malcolm X's wife, was informed that her husband was as good as dead. 4 days later, an FBI informant received a tip that Malcolm X was going to be assassinated. Around the same time, the Nation of Islam filed a lawsuit to reclaim his residence in East Elmhurst, Queens, New York. Although his family was ordered to leave on the night before a hearing on postponing the eviction, the house was tragically destroyed by fire on February 14, 1965. On February 21, 1965, Malcolm X was getting ready to deliver a speech at the Audubon Ballroom in Manhattan. In the midst of the 400-person audience, someone suddenly shouted, "Negro, get your hand out of my pocket!" As Malcolm X and his bodyguards attempted to calm the disturbance, a man rushed forward and shot him once in the chest with a sawed-off shotgun. Simultaneously, 2 other men charged the stage, firing semi-automatic handguns. Following the tragic event, the shooter, Talmadge Hayer, a member of the Nation of Islam, was beaten by the crowd before the police arrived. Witnesses identified the other gunmen as Norman 3, X. Butler, and Thomas 15 X. Johnson, also members of the Nation. In March 1966, all 3 were convicted of murder and sentenced to life in prison. Malcolm X was shot 21 times with gunshot wounds to the chest, left shoulder, arms, and legs, including 10 buckshot wounds from the initial shotgun blast. He would be pronounced dead shortly after arriving at Columbia Presbyterian Hospital. From February 23rd to 26th, a public viewing took place at Unity Funeral Home in Harlem, drawing an immense crowd of mourners estimated between 14,000 and 30,000 people. On February 27th, for the funeral itself, loudspeakers were set up outside the Faith Temple of the Church of God in Christ, allowing the overflow crowd to participate. The service was also broadcast live on local television. Notable civil rights leaders, including John Lewis, Bayard Rustin, James Foreman, James Farmer, Jesse Gray, and Andrew Young, were among those who attended the funeral to pay their respects. Malcolm X was laid to rest at Ferncliff Cemetery in Hartsdale, New York. In a touching display of solidarity, His friends took up the shovels typically used by gravediggers to personally complete his burial. To support his family and provide for the education of his children, actor and activist Ruby Dee and Juanita Poitier established the Committee of Concerned Mothers. This committee aimed to raise funds for a home for his family and contribute to the education of his children, ensuring they were taken care of in the wake of their father's passing. With his death, Malcolm X left a legacy that would be forever ingrained in history. Considered one of the greatest and most influential African Americans, Malcolm X played a vital role in boosting the self-esteem of Black Americans and reconnecting them with their African heritage. He significantly contributed to the spread of Islam within the Black community in the United States. Many African Americans, especially those residing in northern and western cities, found that Malcolm X expressed their grievances about inequality more effectively than the mainstream civil rights movement. In the late 1960s, a wave of increasingly radical Black activists drew inspiration from Malcolm X and his teachings. Movements such as Black Power, the Black Arts Movement, and the popularization of the slogan, "Black is Beautiful," can all be traced back to his influence. Malcolm X's impact even extended to fictional realms. The Marvel Comics character Magneto was inspired by him, as confirmed by writer Chris Claremont, while Professor X drew inspiration from Martin Luther King Jr. Additionally, the character Eric Killmonger in the film Black Panther was influenced by Malcolm X. Malcolm X stands tall as an extraordinary source of inspiration and a beacon of hope for African Americans throughout history. His remarkable journey and unwavering dedication to the fight for justice and equality continue to ignite the flames of motivation within our hearts. One of Malcolm X's greatest achievements lies in his ability to revive the sense of pride and identity among African Americans. He breathed life into the rich heritage and cultural roots that had been suppressed for far too long. By encouraging his community to embrace their unique identity, he ignited a spark of self-love and empowerment that spread like wildfire. His message resonated deeply, reminding us all that our differences are what make us beautifully resilient. Malcolm X fearlessly confronted the shackles of systemic racism and oppression, fearlessly challenging the status quo. In his powerful speeches and unwavering actions, he reminded African Americans that their voices mattered and their struggles were not in vain. His bold approach inspired a generation to rise above the limitations imposed upon them and fight for their rightful place in society. As always, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to our channel, and share our videos to let more people know the truth about Blacks and to hear their own part of the narratives.
Amen.
Thanks for watching.
Okay, I had to share this with you all today. My family and friends here on this live. Okay, and the thing is that me coming to you about this Malcolm X exhibition that I did, and to enlighten you on some things, and also to educate you on our history. There were some things that will never that still exist, and that change got to come through you. Me right now, I'm not ready to let my guards down at this point. I'm saying, I'm not ready to let my guards down of what happened. I'm not trying to stop talking about it and stop bringing information here to my channel about our ancestors and about what they fought for. And I'm not ready to surrender. Okay. I'm not ready to surrender. So I just wanted to come with you with this today, and also bring that to your attention about Malcolm X, and you can learn more about him. I gave you the name of the channel in this video. If you go to the channel, that I didn't want to post it and type it up and all that stuff, but the name of the channel, Black Journalist. If you want to go and read up more about his experience and his life and his walk and stuff, you can go to that channel. They have videos about Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, and other great black content on black history. Like, we only celebrated in February, but black history is every day. If you black your history, and that's something I just wanted to say. So after ending this, I might come back with y'all later on, and I wanted to talk about some things going on around Mr. Robert Sylvester Kelly. And the reason why this channel, I opened it up as a supporter for Robert Sylvester Kelly. It's about to have a rainstorm here. So that's why I have not gone anywhere, because we just getting these rainstorms and I just I can't do it. And sometimes it gets really heavy, y'all. So anyway, y'all, I just wanted to come and share that with you today. What Malcolm about is Malcolm X time, and it's time for us to look into some of the things he fought for during, for us to, have the rights of, as black people, black pride, and our existence here, and equal rights and everything else. Everything about him was not always violence. He wanted to make some violent moves, but he was stopped, of course, by Elijah Muhammad, and we all know that he was killed by his own people, okay, that ended his life or whatever. When they got mad because of the fact that he was becoming the new leader, and that is what took place. He was caught off guards with that or whatever, and Malcolm X, life was taken by his own people, organization, through his own organization. Okay, so if he would have just came out and just led his own organization on his own, he would have just been fine. But anyway, I gotta go. But he did what was rightfully right in the order of God. What he had to do in the order of God. And God ordered him as the anointed king or whatever. But anyway, y'all, I gotta go. I'll come back with y'all later, and we're gonna talk about some things that's surrounding the Mr. Robert Sylvester Kelly, R. Kelly. We are not giving up on him. We're not giving in on him. And I'm not gonna stop educating my people about the injustice he was served. Okay? And lynched in the white man's justice system. So you all be blessed and stay tuned. Peace.